Hey there, I see a few people coming on. Thanks for being here. That sounds funny. So today we are talking about part 1 of the Toxic Mold Recovery Guide. This is sort of our official first call. We do have some like extra guest bonus calls. One we already did. So thanks for being here. I decided to kind of scatter and like vary the times of our calls in case people are in Europe or, have kids at home at night or whatever. So you can let me know if you like this time or not. I don't think I've ever done a call at 9 a.m. my time. So, and just so you know, if you're on YouTube live, I don't think you need to do anything special to make a comment or like ask a question. But if you're on the Facebook group, you do need to give StreamYard permission to comment. It's just like a privacy thing. So you just click, there should be a link right in the stream that says StreamYard /Facebook or something. And then you just click one more button after that and you're done. Yeah, so it's StreamYard.com/Facebook. And then I think I can't because of the same thing. I can see your comments when you get permission, but I can't share comments. So I'll just kind of share verbally. And when we do, we're going to add one more call to the series. And we'll do that in like a Zoom webinar. That'll be the case study call. So that way it'll be a little easier for us to all comment back and forth. But the nice thing about this system is right away it's going to record to YouTube. So if anybody misses it, they can see it right away. Okay, that's just a little side note. So yeah, if you can comment, just if you want to share your name and like where you're at in the journey. I did ask in the Facebook group where people were at in the journey. And it seemed like most people already knew they were dealing with mold and, had symptoms that were mold related. A good number were already working on their home as well. And then a few were like on the other end, had already moved and then are recovering. And that's something I talk about in the book too. Like with your health, there are phases. There's that acute first phase where you're really dealing with a lot of symptoms and a lot of big decisions around your home and that kind of a thing. And then, then you move into more of this recovery phase where things are getting better, but they're still up and down. And then you move into more of a maintenance phase where maybe it's not perfect. Nobody's health is perfect, actually. But it's a lot easier. You can live kind of more normally, eat out, but you do maybe have to have some special management, even potentially for the rest of your life. So, that's kind of where I'm at. I just had a super late night a couple nights ago and I needed to sleep 10 hours last night because I can't just do that and then go back to normal. I need to recover. Crossing time zones it's still hard for me. Some allergy season, certain foods. So, but generally, I can live a pretty normal life. So, just wanted to go look at that survey result one more time. And today we'll talk mostly about part 1 of the book, which is called Discover. It's just like learning more about possible symptoms, what mold is, how it works. And then the slides I have for you today are mainly around the home. So there's always lots of questions on the home, and it's not, my 100% area of expertise. So that's why I've brought on a few people to talk about the home. We do have an attorney who I'll share with you. I think I can't remember, her talk might be this Friday, so I'll have to double check. There was a real estate agent who specializes in this kind of thing that I spoke with on Instagram. Unfortunately, Instagram doesn't really play well with YouTube or Facebook. So if you do have Instagram, I'll post in the group that link. She was really interesting. She kind of gives you some things to consider, like when you buy a new home, if you build a home, that sort of thing. Okay, I just wanted to see something. Okay, so here's that survey. So 17 people said they know their health issues are due to mold. 6 people said they're remediating their house. Only 3 said they're in a mold-free home and recovering. A couple said, I know my house has a mold problem. And then actually some people added in that they have mold and Lyme. And I see that there's a little more requests to talk about how those connect. Um, so yeah, most of you. And then Erin added a comment that she's moving out of a moldy rental. I don't know if it wasn't working, the survey wasn't working for a few people, but yeah, we can talk a bit. Actually, I'll just kind of briefly touch on the mold and Lyme thing. I don't treat Lyme in my practice really because I'm not an expert on it, and it's complex, but I know enough. Like, I've interviewed a lot of people on Lyme. I can post some of those recordings in the chat as well. I've interviewed quite a few people. This is what I do know, or at least what I talk about when I talk with my colleagues, is that mold is going to depress or alter your immune system, and it makes you more susceptible to infections. These definitely can be latent. You can have an earlier Lyme exposure from your childhood, an earlier Epstein-Barr kind of exposure. And then these things can manifest once you become weakened with mold. So is this always the case? I don't, maybe not every time, but talking to my mold friends, it's very often the case. And actually, many people find Lyme first, and then later they realize that mold's involved. So some sources I've heard for that are Dr. Javin Moore, Scott Fogsgren. I've interviewed both those gentlemen, and then Darren Ingalls works with Lyme and mold, and he's got a book about Lyme treatment. So I may not get into actual treatment in this course, but I can definitely tell you, like, they're interrelated. And as far as when to handle what, um, you never want to go in and like kill infections when you can't handle it, and it creates a lot of die off. So um, you want to kind of tread lightly. Like, it's going to be a long journey if you have mold and Lyme. So definitely you need to be out of the moldy home, right? You need to do those foundations of like fresh air, real food, getting a good night's sleep, making sure you have bowel movements, and making sure a lot of things are in place and that you're fairly stable before you would go after infections. Um, I do often think that infections are worth going after, but sometimes we can focus a bit too much on them. And as we continue to strengthen us like a unit, as a host, sometimes those things do kind of fall away, believe it or not. So um, I don't know, actually, I've never tested if I have Lyme, but I have tested for Epstein-Barr more than once in this process, and that was very active for me. And I did do some cycles of working with it. I found Epstein-Barr before I found I had mold. So I was sort of like I'm describing with the Lyme people. So, I did some work on the Epstein-Barr, but of course it's not really going to hold because I was still in a moldy environment. And then later, when I was in recovery, the Epstein-Barr was still coming up for me and active, and it was annoying. But the reason it was still active is my white blood cell count was still low. So I was still doing some testing. Yeah, I just wasn't really strong enough to be managing it. So I still did some things to work on it. So that, it's a bit of a dance. Like, how much do you want to do to suppress the infection versus just like work on the host. So some things I did for Epstein-Barr, for example, were olive leaf and silver. And actually, I felt like there was some kind of Candida Epstein-Barr connection for me too, that is kind of interesting to maybe explore. Because yeah, we often have many kinds of infections, and sometimes we assume our symptoms are from one thing, but our symptoms are maybe manifesting a little bit more from something else. So I was trying this new Candida supplement, and it seemed to put to bed some of my Epstein-Barr symptoms. So it was interesting. I see some people did share, so thank you so much. Let's see. Tracy says her home results weren't conclusive. Okay, so annoying. Tracy, hopefully you can come on when we still have 2 more remediator types to go to. And Tracy, if you got, I don't know, you could just get a second opinion too, Tracy, by contacting Yes We Inspect, because I think they do like little consultations and they're affordable. So you could perhaps like show them. I mean, you can do it on our call too, hopefully, if that timing works out. But you also might want to schedule like a consultation with them. Kelly said she did an ERMI and she doesn't know how to interpret it. Yeah, Kelly, that let me put some. There's a site called ermicode.com that you can put in your info and it will help you interpret it. And the same company, Yes We Inspect. Let me put this. Will potentially like review it too. They're the same company, but they just have a few different services. Yeah, this is really common what Kelly's mentioning. The ERMI mostly is kind of measuring for moisture in your home by like an overall mold load. I don't like it as much as a practitioner because the strains aren't necessarily the toxic strains. So that's sort of the problem. But in the hands of a very experienced remediator, an ERMI could be helpful. Kelly, you also may want to go back and listen to the recording from it's in the Facebook group and in the YouTube, but I'll post it again. So let me write down what I'm supposed to post here. Okay, so Lyme, and I'll post the interview from JW and the IG live. You may want to watch, Kelly, the one I did already with immunolytics, and he kind of explains that ideally you would do an ERMI in more than one room, which gets expensive or whatever. So you can kind of hear his explanation about how to test a home. I know that I'm asking you guys to educate yourselves a lot and learn from different sources, and it's time consuming, but really it's the only way to give yourself a well-rounded perspective, right? Like if your home is in a confusing, inconclusive situation, like either you talk to a really, really good expert or you kind of educate yourself in a well rounded way so that you can start making sense of all of it. It's kind of true for all of this, the health part and the home part. And I think many of you are like me. I'm more familiar with the body, and that isn't as intimidating to me. But the home part is a lot to learn, but still worth learning. Tracy said the only thing that came up in her home was Candida. So, according to that interview with JW, Tracy, that often is because someone in the home has Candida, and you have to clean the home really well. And whoever that is that has Candida needs to be treated as well. So that was something I learned with him just a couple weeks ago when we did that interview. Deb says. Oh, Deb's just kind of saying hello from Illinois. Great. Glad to have you here. And yeah, we'll have a recording for you, Deb. Linda said, remediated 3 times, but still very sick. Working with a naturopath to detox. Hoping to learn more about stuff you can keep. Okay, Linda. First of all, hi. Nice to meet you. I'm really sorry. Yeah, mostly it's going to be stuff you can't keep, especially at this point if you're still very sick. So this can be the trouble with remediating is it's so easy to like still have some contamination, especially if you're super sensitive. So, yeah, we'll get into that more today, Linda. I'll make a little note for myself. And y'all can just keep asking questions whenever you want during the call. Oh, the dog could have candida. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, there's definitely dog probiotics, like Megaspore makes a dog probiotics. I don't know of I think you can, there's some Biocidin makes some animal products too. Let me put that in those companies in the chat. So Biocidin and Microbiome Labs both have some dog products. But if you see like a natural vet near you, I mean, it could be the dog, but it can also definitely be you somebody in your house, right? So yours, Tracy, could be a cool one to, get a second opinion. And, we could do some plate testing also, like we talked about, and get a consult with Immunolytics or just talk to Yes We Inspect. Another thing that I learned from that interview was there are different sources of moisture. Like sometimes it is the dogs tracking in certain things, and then diaper pails came up, or like there it's not always like a big leak. So some of the experts can sort through that stuff. Okay, give me one sec. Go get my slides. I feel like this is like an enthusiastic group. I appreciate it. I know that mold is not the funnest thing in the whole wide world to deal with, but we can try to at least keep it light when we support each other and all that. Okay, and I got a screen share. One sec. Okay, looks okay, right? I'll make it a little bigger though. Linda, in a neti pot, I would probably just do a few drops. And you might want to do the liposomal. Tracy, maybe it's a little hard to say, Tracy. I don't know if everyone in your family is sick or not. I mean, ideally, yes, you test everybody, but cost-wise, I don't know if you're going to want to do that. Okay, so just a brief disclaimer that I do recommend you talk to experts, both for your home and your body. And this is a group course, so it's just for education and get some second opinions. So this is me with my hair extensions on, truth be told. And this is a book. So before we get into everything, just kind of stepping back and learning with grace is important, because it's a lot to learn, and getting super stressed out about it isn't going to help. So sometimes if you can feel yourself kind of ramping up and being, worried and overwhelmed, you just have to step back. And one thing that's in the book, I can't remember where it is, but is this check-in tool. So you may just want to ask yourself in a journal, just these 3 questions. So what's best for you today? What steps to take? How can you approach it with ease? So in the course of the day, we can't fix all our mold problems, right? So just where are you at right now? And some of you it's getting ready to move. Some of you it's, figuring out who to test for candida. So it's like, what step can I do today? Do I need to do a little research? Do I need to hire a mover? Just take it step by step. And yeah, definitely trying to remember what is still positive in your life will attract more positivity. So, if it's a helpful contractor you have, it's like if it's a friend you can call anytime, whatever it is. Yeah, just have some balance in your thoughts and keep some like positive, right? And then remember, we're all different. So, someone may have a very kind of simple remediation, and then other person it's super complicated, and they do have to get rid of all their belongings. So, we're all different, and we all have to kind of make our own choices. And sometimes we make a choice we're not happy with, and that's okay too. None of us make the right choice the first time, every time. So there's definitely some trial and error, but I think education does reduce your chances of making errors, and keeps you just moving faster in the right direction. So I seem to have to say this a lot. You cannot get better if you're still in a moldy environment. You just can't. You can tread water, but or get worse. That's about it. And you can waste money doing too much testing on your body, treatment modalities if you're still in the home, because you're gonna probably have to do it all again once you're out of the home. And some people may not have a moldy home. Some people are still trying to figure it out, like Tracy. Um, Tracy, I don't know if we can say for sure that you don't have a water problem quite yet. Still, maybe get a second opinion. So, often people are like, where do well, to be honest, the question I get the most is which test is best for my home? We have to back that up. And first thing you can do in any place is inspect. And like the realtor that I interviewed, you can get, good at this. Like she was just a regular person who got good at this, just looking around, sniffing around, looking under sinks, looking behind washing machines, asking questions about the roof, getting the roof checked. You can do a humidity reader. You can do a moisture meter for the walls. Many of us, especially as women, and it's mostly women in my audience, aren't very knowledgeable about this stuff, but doesn't mean we can't learn it. Or if you have a husband or partner who's handy, um, and they are willing to help with some inspection type of thing, great. This being said, sometimes you may not see it. I think JW said, I forget if he said 80 or 90% of the time you can't see the mold. But like if I think about back to my old house, if I had done some of these 5 senses testing, or done a humidity reader, I would have known I had some problems, right? Without even having an inspector. And then I did get an inspector, which I generally recommend if you're a homeowner, because you really need to know where moisture came from if you're going to fix it. That's why the home tests are a little limited, because you don't know what to do with them once you get the results. It's confusing. So a good inspector will run multiple tests and do kind of multiple types of inspection. So these are some areas you can check that can be problematic. The crawl space is usually problematic in a house. 2 pages of problem areas here. So lots of potential problem areas. Even just like overstuffed closets, a lot of people are keeping, old boxes of paper or mementos, and those areas are musty, there's not good airflow, there's too high of humidity. It creates an environment for mold to grow. And then these are just some examples of how water damage can happen. So it can be, a sort of accident or disaster, but it can also just be poor ventilation, humidity, eating away at some natural materials in the place. So this is all in chapter 1 of the book. So you can just think about your own home if you're still in the process of deciding, does your house have a water damage issue? You could even just, open up the book and be walking around the house. So a lot of people ask me too, how do I know when an inspector is like doing a good job? And it's really, again, educating yourself on what an inspector should do that qualifies as a good job. And that means they're not just doing a visual inspection, they are taking multiple samples like drywall samples, swabbing, air sample, checking for moisture in the wall, checking how gutters drain. Um, checking attics and crawl spaces. A good mold inspection is not going to be cheap. Although I will say, some people, like I have a new friend at All Dry, they inspect for free. So if you already know you have a water thing, like let's say you realize you had a slow leak under your kitchen sink and you never took care of it, and now it's a problem, they can come out, inspect for free. I don't know how deep of an inspection they do for a whole home because it is free, but they'll do a free like look around of your home. So sort of like you get what you pay for. You probably can't get a free inspection that's going to run multiple types of samples. So if you want that, you're going to have to pay for it. And depending on where you live, just here's a couple resources. But if you know what a good inspector is and you say, hey, I have some health problems, I really need a deep inspection, blah, 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 just like any other contractor, if you kind of know what questions to ask, you'll hopefully find a good one. This can be a good book for you to look at for more tips about remediation. So here's a few ways to kind of self-test. The ARMI we talked about earlier, if you do use an ARMI, I would get it interpreted right at the ARMI code. And then Immunolytics has some really awesome options where you can buy like multiple plates, some swabs, send it all into them, and they'll interpret it for you. And then Emma I like because it tests specifically for mycotoxins, but they're pretty weak on the back end about kind of interpreting your tests. It's very basic. It's just basically like if you see mycotoxins, it's bad. It's kind of simple. So these are just some considerations if you're thinking about, should I move? Should I remediate? What should I do? Um, Again, every situation is kind of different, but sometimes it's good to open it up and think about things outside of, just moving, just staying in the home. A lot of people just kind of want to stay in the home, frankly. But sort of like with COVID, some people made some big changes. It may be time to make a big change. If your health is really affected and you can go home and live with family, maybe it's time to do that and just simplify your life for a while. Get rid of your things, probably. And I said on a recent call we did in another group, it's like, I'd rather you move temporarily to a situation that isn't perfect like living with some in-laws that you're not crazy about, then just to stay. You got to get in motion. And if you're there with the in-laws, it probably push you harder to keep moving it on, right? So I'd rather you move than stay stuck. And there's a lot of different kind of specialists out there, services out there. Again, open your mind a little bit about what's out there to lean on for assistance. If you had a very new leak, like there was a storm in your area and a tree fell on your house, that's one of the rare instances where insurance is going to cover you. But you have to make sure that they're getting their remediation done right and they're not like skimping, which is really possible. So still good to educate yourself. So here's some other things to think about for resources. I am actually not opposed to buying used things. As you buy some things for your house, maybe not all used things, but it can save you some money. Not every place is moldy or whatever. So, if you bought like a bookcase or whatever, it can save you some money when you're I'm kind of saying this with a grain of salt. Some people are so sensitive that it's, kind of hard for them to bring any new stuff in. But if you're, if it's kind of stumbling here on how to explain this, your own belongings are really going to be the most triggering for you. And I don't recommend you buy like a nasty, dusty old sofa. But like I just bought a little sofa for my office. It's like practically brand new. So any off gassing it's done some off gassing. It's beautiful. And it was $300. It was like a great deal. So I think that if you're buying something that seems to be in good condition, it can save you some money when you're starting over. Some people go live on land, like the BLM land is free to stay on. There's a couple rules, but it's pretty straightforward, and there's websites and apps to look that land up. So just really like getting away, getting out in fresh air for a period of time, whether it's a week or a year, can really be great for your health and, not expensive. So not everyone can do that because of their work or their kids, but here's some ways to like work remotely. There's some different resources. And I just want to point out again, there's often more than you can think of. When we're sick and stressed, we tend to not feel or be creative. But if we can be creative, there's more solutions. Hold on one second. I'm really hoping this is going to record my screen because I got a warning that it may not. Well, we're going to just keep going because I don't want to close everything down on you guys. Okay, again, cast a wide net of resources and recommendations. I think occasionally we get excited about a certain practitioner or a certain blog we read, and we put like all our eggs in that basket. But this is a very nuanced area. Every area is different. Every person's different. So, just get some different opinions. For instance, my hairdresser's husband's in the insurance industry, and he was like, they should have gotten their mold paid for, blah, blah, blah. And it's not true. Actually, just because he's in the industry doesn't mean He knows everything. So, most slow damage they consider neglect and they will not pay for, or something you didn't notice in an inspection when you bought a home. So, um, just, get really informed. And if you do choose to hire a mediator, similar to the inspector, there are mediators who are more basic than others, but they should be physically removing anything water damaged and then a little beyond that. So that can be quite a bit. They should be running an air scrubber and they should have the area walled off with plastic, and then like the what's it called? The HVAC should not be running in the house. So just getting a better sense of like, what does that look like? And know that, they're mainly not health experts. So our remediator told us to move everything out from the basement so he could work down there. All that stuff was contaminated. It was not a good idea. But we just didn't know better because I had never read a book like this. So those belongings definitely should not have gone upstairs. But he didn't know and we didn't know. So really just better for you to know yourself, because it's not necessarily his job when he just doesn't understand mold illness. So I kind of mentioned the moving things to another part of the house issue. Here's a few more things you can do wrong. So anytime you fix a water thing within 48 hours, that's really what you want to do. So, if you ever do have a tub overflow or something, get someone out there quickly, dry it quickly, run fans. You can also contaminate your car by moving your things around. So we lost 2 cars this way. I talked a little bit about some meters you can use. So here's a couple of them. A humidity meter and a moisture meter. So this is all in the book. It's just kind of a way to get a quicker run through. Everyone talks about air filters. They're cool, but not enough people are talking about dehumidifiers, which are really important to run like in your basement or, a humid area of your home. And then to make sure they're not causing a new water problem by like pooling water or anything. So I forget her name. Was it Linda? I can't remember. This is a little bit more about belongings. So I think when we move, it's easier to wrap our heads around belongings and what we bring to the next place. And really the gold standard is bring nothing, at least initially. So I think what happens with the remediation is we leave all the stuff in place or some of the stuff in place, and then we don't really get better. But if you can even get better in a remediated home, it really needs to be stripped down all the way to nothing. Like take everything out, rip up the carpets. Again, this is not for like a minor remediation. This is like you've been chronically ill, the house has been chronically moldy, that type of thing. So here are some tips if you are sorting through your things and you just kind of want to like minimize your exposure, kind of recover from all the exposure. And these are in the book as well. These are some like cleaning tips too. Getting a dumpster delivered is really helpful. Getting a moving truck potentially. Having some mold clothes that you wear when you're dealing with the stuff, and then you take them all off and then you go to your safe home. So you can see my list of things that can be cleaned easily is almost nothing, and it's not even worth much. It's like plates and bowls. Most things are difficult to clean. Furniture, appliances, computers, books, clothes, all of it. Maybe you can, use the mold detergent like the EC3 or borax to clean your clothes. It didn't really work for us. So, maybe I'm on the extreme spectrum, quite sick, quite long affected home. It did not work for us. So, just keep that in mind. So, if you do go about cleaning your clothes or cleaning some things, I don't really agree that wood furniture is easy to clean. That's why it's not on my list there. Um, it's a maybe at best. So, really err on the side of not bringing things or realizing if you're going to stay in the same home, you still may need to get rid of almost everything, including something like your refrigerator. It's very hard to clean, right? How do you clean all the insides of your fridge? It's very difficult. This is often why moving is easier in a sense. I mean, it's still expensive, but we tend to get very attached to our home and it keeps presenting a problem. So here's some cleaning ideas. If you do say have a small remediation problem in your home or any kind of small problem like the candida in the home problem, doing a deep clean with some natural products is a good idea. But if you have like contaminated furniture, it's still going to keep contaminating you. So we talked a little bit about insurance already and what it can cover versus not. We talked about the 48 hours. If you do have an incident, you need to document really quickly and move really quickly. This is a resource you can go to if you're a renter and you want know a little bit more about. He has some tips about, your rights as a renter. I think again, keeping things in writing, not just like having chit chats with your landlord, is a good idea. Honestly, my biggest thing for renters is just move. Like, please don't fight a big battle. If you feel like something was really neglected and you're losing a lot of money because of it, you can retain a lawyer, but also get out. I see people get like embroiled in these battles and they're still in the moldy space, kind of like fighting for what's right. Not everything is right in this world, and sometimes we just need to move. Okay. That was my last slide for the day. Yeah, Jeffrey, pots and pans can be cleaned. Michael asked about the N95 mask. Michael, it's not a good. I would say you can use a mask while you're sorting your stuff. You can use an N95 or a full like respirator mask. It's like more like plastic, and then it has these two filters on the side. I think I name it better in the book. And I see. That's more like while you're dealing with stuff. As far as you're not moving out right away, Michael, I mean, I'll keep that really short. I would say windows should be open a lot. If you're running an air filter, great, but you can't take that with you to the next place. So I usually don't recommend buying an air filter, like a fresh air filter, if you're still in the moldy home. I would just keep it cheap and like open doors and windows. You can run a diffuser. Cleaning can keep it down. The diffuser can keep it down. There's these candles by EC company that you can do, but it's all very temporary, right? It's not gonna fix the home, but it's something. It's something. Kelly is wondering about clothes and belongings. Her mom has visible mold in the home. It sounds like she comes over, Kelly, to your house to watch your sons 2 days a week. Could she have brought it? Mm, I don't think so. Not enough to, like, really colonize your home and make you sick, right? Like, say something's on her clothes. She could be putting out a little mycotoxins. I mean, I guess it's a maybe. You could be positive for mycotoxins maybe from, like, what she's putting out, but if she has mold spores on her, they would need to have a wetness in your home to reproduce. So, um, Kelly says she's not experienced illness, but she does have autoimmune disorders. Well, it is an illness, though, Kelly. And her son is skinny for his height, which is why the doctor thinks mold. Well, maybe, but that's not the only reason. He could have some malnourishment. Um, I don't know if you asked earlier on, Kelly. I'll see like what's going on with your home. It sounds like you don't think there's a mold issue in your home. I mean, mold is like a bit of a fad too right now, right? So mold is behind a lot of things, but it's not behind literally everything. So, um, we do have to just really, ideally you really know enough about your home to know it's like safe or not and get, good inspection. Yeah, Linda, essential oils do help. There are foggers you can buy with like a non-toxic botanical solution. I never bought one personally, but you can like rent the machine and buy the solution. I think what's his company name? Matt from, let me see what company he's with. Okay, 1 second. Oh, the Mold Pros that make some enzyme products. But there's probably other ones out there. I just wanted to give you at least one name. So one name is the Mold Pros. But if people want to say in the chat too, like other products say, like, yeah, you can fog. So fogging is really like a cleaning step or a last step. Like it's not really a killing step. It's just more of like making sure the last little bits are not a problem. So Linda, it sounds like you want to make sure your new home doesn't have any mold. I would just do like a deep clean with the borax or the essential oils. You can do the diffuser. I mean, literally like wiping the walls, getting the HVAC unit clear, getting the ducting cleaned, changing the filter on the HVAC. All this is kind of in the book too. It might be a little scattered around, but basically like getting the home like super, super spick and span from the HVAC down to like, the carpet, changing carpet if it needs to be changed, that kind of thing, um, is a great way to start out at a new home. Michael's asking where mold is greatest outdoors. Is it like forests with leaves? Yeah. I mean, I think that like the species and stuff are going to be different in the forest. So there may not be like toxic necessarily. Like species is going to be more of a variety. If you have a mold allergy and just like mold just sort of bothers you in general, that may give you some congestion or what have you. I don't know where you live, Michael, but I would just kind of notice how your body reacts. Like, do you have trouble like in the woods or do you feel better in the woods? Even, I moved to the desert, you wouldn't think there'd be any problems. So there's actually quite a bit of pollen here in the spring. and there's air pollution. And I think because of my history, I'm sensitive to it. So it's not always like wet climate, dry climate. It's just now our bodies are more sensitized. Yeah, Jeffrey, I talked a bit about the mold stuff. I mean, in belongings, like I wouldn't buy things that are like in bad condition. Like I said, I bought this couch. I can tell like it's practically brand new. Um, and like I told Kelly, I think, like, I don't think you have to worry about every single thing is like contaminated. I think you can sniff it, like if you go to Goodwill or something and you sniff thing, like I'll react immediately. Even I'll react to dust. It's not necessarily mold, but just like the pollen, now I'll react to dust. So I won't buy a thing if I start reacting to that right away. So, I wouldn't buy something sight unseen. I would like be able to check it out and um, see how you feel around it. And occasionally you might make a wrong choice, but like let's say you're refilling your house, right? You're not going to buy 100 items from the same place. Like you're going to buy this and that, this and that. And so it's going to be like kind of balanced, like lots of different things coming in from different sources. So, if you'd rather not risk it and you want to buy everything new, it's fine. I would just watch like the off gassing, let things off gas outside, do run an air filter in a new clean space because new things have issues too. All Dry is all over the place. It's a franchise. So the Kim is All Dry of Marlboro, New Jersey, but you can look it up and they're all over the place. Somebody asked, is it reasonable to just test your air quality first? And if the air shows more mold than outdoors, take it to the next level. Um, you can. The company gotmold.com sells an air filter or an air tester. It's like the first of its kind. It's like a kit you can buy. Here's the problem. It's not always going to pick up an issue. So I think the kit does come with 3 different cartridges. So you can hit 3 areas of your house plus compare it to the outdoors. I would suggest to this user to go look at the stuff from Immunolytics because it's cheaper. You're going to get more samples. You can run some swab tests. You can tell them this one's from the laundry room, this one's from the baby's room, and send it all into them. And they can kind of give you a sense of your whole home. So the short answer is no, it's not the best way to just test air quality first. I would do the Immunolytics. First of all, do the visual inspection or the 5 senses inspection we talked about, right? Think about the history of the home and think if there are any problem areas. I would go watch that interview with Immunolytics or look on their website. They gave us a coupon code too, which is my first name for 10% off. So I'll post all that again. I think it's a little more thorough way to start with some home testing than doing an air sample. An air sample is just too limited, right? So just for like an analogy, like let's say, I don't know, let's say you're feeling tired and you're wondering if it's um, anemia. So you get your iron tested and it comes back a certain way, yes or no. Okay, well, now you know about anemia. There's like 25 more reasons you could be tired, though. So it's sort of the same. It's like, can we just run an air test to answer this comprehensive question? No, we can't. Um, but good question. I mean, I think it would be nice again if there was one way to test and there's just not. But to save money and go step by step, I think immunolytics is after visual inspection or maybe doing a couple if you're an owner doing a humidity reader or moisture meter. Then I would go to like I think the immunolytics stuff is really affordable. They will, do a Zoom call with you to go over it. I'm putting in the chat, but the chat may not go to the group. Jeffrey, I don't know if you're the same Jeffrey who was in the other group with us, but he's out moving out of his house. That's fantastic. He's sorting through his things. What can he take in the meantime? Yeah, so you can be using a binder. You can be like rinsing out your nose, taking a lot of showers. Like you basically want to like get anything on you off of you often. Um, and then be binding it up in the GI tract. You can certainly do like coffee enemas and dry brushing, Epsom salt. That'll all like it does help. It's just not like a permanent solution. So yeah, you can do any of the things to like detox, especially if they make you feel better like throughout the course of the day. CoQ10 for energy might be a nice one. Linda says she has a fogger, but it's expensive. She would like to fog more often. Linda, you shouldn't have to fog all the time, though. And you could probably make your own solution. I don't know if it'd go in the fogger, but again, like just be deep cleaning your house more often. If you're worried about mold continuing like to grow or is it growing, I would just dehumidify. It can't grow where it's dry. As long as your house is not like damaged and there's not like a pre-existing mold issue, if you're keeping your humidity down, you shouldn't be growing any mold. So I may not be getting like the full scope of the question, but also something that can happen is we become hyper vigilant after a mold exposure. And then we do worry, our mom's coming over. Is she making the house moldy? Like they're good questions, but like really, as long as the house isn't water damaged, just keeping it clean, keeping it dry, basically all you need to do. A different Linda asked, she had an air purifier cleaned by a mold inspector who sold it to me, and he said it was fine. He also said my lap time was fine to keep. Yeah, I don't really agree. I would put those things to the side for a while and then boot them up and see how you feel. He is, maybe cleaning off some mold spores or whatever, but he can't get like in the deepest part of the machinery. And he's not cleaning off mycotoxins to a level that's like perfect. So I think the laptop I had when this all went down for me, the laptop I had, I would take back and forth from work. I did move it to our temporary house. Like it worked out okay. But the desktop computer I had that was brand new was just in the house like 3 months, maybe 6 months, and it got completely ruined. I was never able to fix it. I would do the pressurized air, I would clean it, and then when I would boot it up, I kept saving it and repeating this process. And every time if I boot it up, I'd feel sick. So once you get healthier, you can tell if a single item is making you sick, but you need to get away from that item and improve your health. So don't go on his word, go on like your body's reaction, I would say. And again, like I was at the extreme end, maybe not everyone is, but if you're quite sick, again, like assume your stuff is not safe for you rather than like assume it is safe for you. Because if say you move the laptop, the air purifier, some clothes, your bed, all into your new place, and now you're like 2 months later, you're like, crap, I'm not feeling well. Now it's a much bigger problem. Now the place is contaminated. You don't know which items are doing what. So it's messy. Oh, hi, Jeffrey. Well, you're double learning. I appreciate that. Okay, I may take this question from Michael as the last question for the day. What mold solutions would you say are overrated or expensive, yet not that effective when it comes to detecting mold, remediating mold, keeping it protected post remediation. So I think something I question is any ozone fogging, questionable. I again, like I said earlier, I don't think enzymes are a way to remediate. They're only one way to clean later on. I think I've talked about air purifiers. I don't really believe in moving them to a clean environment. I think they get contaminated. I think they can be good afterwards if it's a new house, new air filter. I'm talking about like the HEPA filters. They get a little overused, I think, as far as like you do still need to deep clean your house. You need to, change the filters in your HVAC. You need to make sure there's not like water in the AC system, that kind of thing. So that basic home maintenance is core, just like basic body maintenance is core. And that's a really great question, Michael. I'm trying to think of other things I think the army is a little overrated. I think air testing is overrated. I think a guy is coming through and walking around and telling you your house looks fine is a mistake. I definitely learned from my friends. There's a lot of hidden mold. Did that answer? Is there any specific one, Michael, that you were questioning? Yeah, Jeffrey, there's quite a bit in the book about going in and out because we did that same thing. We had a new house, but we were still dealing with the old house. So if you say I'll just give you my scenario, and I know everyone's won't be exactly the same, but we were living in a temporary house that my parents had while we were fixing our old house. So if we went to the old house, we had like left on the porch or whatever a bag of like mold clothes we would put on, we'd have a mask, and we'd do our work. And then when we left, we would take those clothes off, put on different clothes, go home, put those clothes on the porch, go take a shower, maybe take a binder if you need it or whatever, clean out your nose, minimum take a shower and take those clothes off and then put new clothes on. It's a real pain. It's a super big pain. And yeah, maybe like if you work on a laptop, maybe you're bringing that back and forth a little bit. Well, you're not going to bring it while you clean item, but bring the minimum to the new place. Like we literally bought new clothes to live in the new place. And I wish we had done it sooner because we actually did, well, we did contaminate the new place. That's why I'm so like strict about it now. So if we had done this from the start, yeah, we would be doing this. Like you take your clothes off, you take a shower, you have bare minimum from the old space, maybe your laptop because you need it to work. Maybe it's time you bought a new laptop anyway, so you do that. But like just bare minimum, like you have a few brand new outfits and you've got a laptop and your cell phone and your charger, and like that's it. You're not bringing your favorite blanket. You're not bringing like a bunch of contaminated shoes and bringing them inside. Like if you have some shoes that might be contaminated, you leave them out. You're not bringing an air filter. You're not bringing a sauna. You're keeping it like super, super minimal. That's the only safe way to be in a new place if your belongings may be affected. And my memory of you, Jeffrey, is your house is definitely really contaminated. So I would 100% assume all your stuff is contaminated as well. It could be a good solution to go live in a place that's already furnished, like be in a roommate situation, live with relatives. Because if you go to empty place, it's empty, but you could get just really like if you're going to need a mattress long term, you buy a green mattress and put that in. You have like literally like a card table and a couple chairs, like you wash pots and pans, and you can bring those. So it's just you almost like you have to assume everything is contaminated. Because what will happen otherwise is you'll be like, oh, it's no big deal. It's just this or that. And then it's more and more stuff you weren't careful about. And now your new place is contaminated. And that's happened to a lot of people. So I'm not making this up. So I think in your case, Jeffrey, yeah, you have to be like super, super careful, buy a few new outfits, let those be your clean things. Linda, how can you tell if mold is behind a wallboard? How do they test? Sometimes they drill a little hole and then they test in there. So that's getting a little more advanced. But you can also potentially test that there's moisture with a moisture sensor. There's some I think that are like thermography, and there's some that are like more basic for just like moisture. But I think they both work. So if the moisture is high in a place where it shouldn't be, right, behind a wallboard, then you might have reason to, you know, then step into hiring a remediator or getting a more advanced inspection. And some of the mycotoxins can pass through and even potentially mold spores. Some people will tell you like it can't pass through that, it's contained, but it's not really contained. So if you ran like an EMA dust test in your house, you may find the mycotoxins. You may find mold from like a plate testing or air testing too. I don't totally know like the situation with this certain wallboard. But hopefully that gave you a better idea about all of it. Well, I'll if you have a couple more questions, you can write in, but I'll just kind of sum up. So the first part of the book is called Discover. We mostly talked about the house as far as slides, but there's also in here lists of symptoms, lists of ways to body test. We can body test with you and sit with you and go over your results. That's a at-home urine test. So that's at bridgitdanner.com. And you guys, from being part of the book club, have a coupon code for $20 off. I can't remember the code name. I meant to look it up. So I'll have to post it later. But it's in the like landing page. So yeah, really first, I recommend you discover like, could my symptoms be related to mold? Is it in my body? Is it in my home? What are my resources in the community? What are my options? What's my plan of attack here? That's sort of section one. And better to like sort of really get organized in that span of time before you move into action, which is what we'll talk about next. And we'll talk about more about we'll get more into the body and sort of preparing the body for detox next. So honestly, when I first got the paperback in the mail, I thought, oh, it's so big and like no one's going to want to read it. But there's a lot of stuff that's like, bullet points and lists, and, you can skip to certain chapters. So don't feel like you need to sit and read it, cover to cover. You can just read the sections that, appeal to you or that you need in the moment. Yes, Jeffrey, a moisture meter will tell you if there's moisture behind the wallboard. That's one thing that our inspector told us. And then once things got opened up, we found out what was, and we had moisture behind our siding. So we knew there was a problem like with the siding. And then when they got in there, we could see like the windows had leaked into, the structure of the house, stuff like that. So some of that stuff is hard to see the source, but if there's moisture, there's a problem. Great, Kelly. I appreciate your enthusiasm. This is awesome. So we'll have this, I'll have the recording. I really hope it recorded correctly to YouTube. You guys on YouTube could see the slides, right? If so, I think it got recorded correctly. And then the next class, I don't totally know. I have to double check. I have the attorney coming on. I have 2 more inspectors, and then we have 3 more calls together. So it's lots of still opportunities to ask questions and learn. And I'm excited. And thank you for buying the book. And if you haven't written a review yet, we give you like a little secret bonus, we're calling it, for writing a review. So I will put that link too. I really appreciate your reviews on Amazon. It helps me a ton. So thank you, Linda. Thanks for everyone for being here. And yeah, I'll be in touch soon about what's coming up. Bye, everybody.